And welcome back to At Issue. We are joined now by Congressman Dean Phillips of Minnesota's 3rd District. He is out in Washington, D.C., where it was a busy week. Earlier this week, Congressman, the House voted to extend the debt ceiling at least through the month of December, following suit after the Senate. But it was hard fought just to get to this, which really is not a solution, is it? It's just kind of, I know it's an old, tired cliche, but it's kicking the can down the road.
Which, as you well know, Congress is awfully good at. And once again, an embarrassing display of a lack of thoughtful leadership. And we were able to extend it to December, but I'm sure we will be back here in a couple months with the same brinksmanship and the same precipice. And the same playing with fire that we can ill afford here in our country. The sad part of this, Tom, is that politics are getting in the way of basic principle. If we do not address this, let's just make it clear, we are in deep trouble. Foreign investors will no longer consider the United States the safest place to deploy capital. We will have millions of job losses, trillions of wealth wiped out. It's a responsibility of Republicans now, as it was when I first started my career in Congress 3 years ago, for Democrats to support President Trump when he asked us to address the debt limit. We should be working together. I'm disappointed it has come to this, and I hope that in December, reasonable people will come together on both sides of the aisle and recognize that we have an obligation to country over our political parties.
But let's face it, the real battleground is in the Senate, which is very narrowly controlled by Democrats. You have the votes in the House to do a lot of the things that you want to do. But part of the problem, the interesting dynamic in the Senate, is that you have a couple of Democratic senators, considered centrist senators, who are not willing to go as far as many Democrats want to go. So it's not just Republican against Democrat. In some cases, it's Democrats against Democrats, and that's hard to overcome.
It is, Tom, but it's also the way our system was constructed, which I think is the most effective system of governance in the world, as long as we populate it with people of principle. Senators Manchin and Sinema have strong feelings on this. I should let everybody know, I do believe we will be passing the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and I believe we will be passing a very robust Build Back Better Act, which will help children and families and allow us to finally negotiate prescription drug pricing so we don't subsidize the rest of the world, extend the child tax credit, and start making some investments in our climate crisis. These are important issues. Sinema and Manchin have every right as U.S. senators to stake their claim, make their case, and when a margin is so thin, it's a lot of power accrued to them. But I do believe we will come together, and frankly, this is how Congress is actually supposed to operate. So it is not a disappointment. I still think it's an opportunity, and I'm eager to see it reach its conclusion, because I think the country needs to see Congress come together.
Where is the final budget number likely to come in? $3.5 trillion was on the table. Then there was talk about $1.5 trillion. Is it likely to end up somewhere right in the middle of that, or is even some of that going to be too much?
You know, Tom, I don't want to prognosticate too much, because every time I do in Washington, I'm surprised. But I do believe that it'll come in somewhere between $2 and $2.5 trillion. And just for comparison, we right now spend $2 trillion on Medicare and Social Security annually in our country. At $2 trillion over 10 years, that's $200 billion a year, just 10% of what we spend on Social Security and Medicare. And conversely, to investments in retirees, most of whom have paid into that system, these are investments in the future, in kids and families, allowing parents who are suffering from the terribly high cost of childcare to be able to go to work and ensure their kids are looked after. Pre-K education, child tax credit, really focus on rebuilding America's middle class, which has languished and suffered over the last number of decades. These are investments. I think even moderate Republicans and thoughtful Democrats and even libertarians around the country, if they look at it objectively, might find some good in it. And I hope that people do look at it that way. We'll come together.
Just quickly on two issues. Are you concerned about how Republicans are going to portray this in the upcoming midterm elections? Because they're going to try to make you do this with almost all Democratic votes, and then they're going to turn around and put ads on the air that talk about how you raise taxes. Are you concerned about the impact, especially with President Biden's very low approval rating, that this is going to hurt you in the midterm elections?
Well, let me say this, Tom. During the Trump administration 4 years, $7.8 trillion was added to the federal debt. The Build Back Better Act will not add dollars to the debt. Taxes will only increase on those making over $400,000 a year. And to your point, no matter what, no matter how much good is done, yes, the other side will paint Democrats as evil, as horrible. We know what's coming, and frankly, both parties do it. It's a sad and disappointing lack of good leadership, frankly, in our politics. But I'm here to do what's right, what's in the best interest of our children, our grandchildren, Minnesotans, and the country. That's how I'll vote. And no matter what the political consequences are, we're prepared to do what's right for the country.
All right, that is Congressman Dean Phillips sharing his viewpoints on the ongoing budget battle that we'll be hearing much more about between now and December. Congressman, thank you so much for taking time to join us from Washington, D.C. today.
Thank you, Tom. Keep the faith.
All right, Congressman Dean Phillips. It's becoming an all